All right, I'm back with Jarel. We got cut off, ran out of memory,
Yes.
and we were talking about how we were talking about blacks and violence, and how since slavery, conflict has been settled violently. When blacks had conflict with whites, it was settled violently with verbal abuse, lynchings, killings, whippings, and then we see this exhibited in any relations with blacks and other blacks. Since blacks didn't have power in the white-black dynamic, when there's a black-on-black dynamic, whoever does have power will use it in the same way that whites did it. Because after slavery, there was no Dr. Phil that rolled out and provided therapy for blacks and tried to help blacks out. There was no reparations where all the blacks that were slaves got land and then psychiatrists came on the land that they got. None of this happened. And also, this should help explain some of the behaviors we see in the black community in regards to violence. Is just the representation of the white violence. Because everybody knows that whenever a child is abused, they take on the behaviors of those that abuse them, meaning they're going to be abusers and violent too. So, Jarel, go ahead and talk about this article that you saw, and then I'm going to point the computer at it.
This article that I saw and that I read, it was a little small piece. They didn't show the whole entire thing, but I saw the whole entire piece. They said that the reason for black people being so violent is our testosterone. Testosterone. It's genetic.
Right. So it is true that blacks, on average, have more testosterone than whites and Asians.
Yes.
Okay. So it's this study. So I just Googled something to see if I could find it. And here it is.
Right there.
It talks about how blacks between the ages of 7 to 35 have exceptionally high levels of testosterone than whites and other races. This may account for a number of personality and behavioral factors. Might is the key. Key word. And I say this due to caution because this unique chemical factor has yet to be determined. However, it goes on. However, it could prove black violence is an inherited behavior, a physiological difference. And all the legislation in the world won't change that. So the last time I checked, testosterone does not make you pick up any guns and knives or fists to harm anybody. What about you? You ever heard somebody say testosterone can do that?
No, never.
Now, I have heard of psychological effects of being abused when it goes untreated. Have you ever heard of that?
I absolutely have.
And last time I checked, slavery was an extreme case of abuse that went untreated for all blacks.
Exactly. Slavery, and even after slavery, all those lynchings, hey, it got into some people's heads.
That's abuse, right?
Absolutely.
And it still put blacks in a state of fear and survival mode.
And they act like it never happened. They act like that's not the reason for us being so aggressive in nature.
Because we've been put in an aggressive, violent environment.
Right.
Now, do they talk about how environments affects the mind and psychology? Does that ever happen, Jarel?
They actually don't.
They don't?
They never do, actually. They just talk about what could happen in the mind. What could you might be born with.
Wow.
They never talk about the environment around.
Wow. But isn't it true that when we look at the Skinner boxes with the rats in the boxes, the rats respond to their environment, which is that box.
Yes.
Correct? So most people, they identify with the experimenter, right? But the experimenter has all the power. So naturally, we want to be the one with all the power, right?
Right.
But the rat responds to the power that the experimenter has. He tells the rat when to eat, when to sleep, when the lights are going to go off, right? All of that. So if we look at that now in modern times, it mimics what happened during slavery. Whites decided when blacks was going to eat, sleep, what clothes they were going to wear. And that dynamic has not changed. And the violence that the whites used on blacks during and after slavery has not changed, has it?
It has not. It has not gone away. We're acting like it's just... We're acting like it can't affect us, but it can.
Who are the main people? What race of people are the ones that continually say slavery has no effect on us today?
Blacks.
Why do you think that is?
I think it just doesn't. I think it has nothing to do with now. I think that history can't tie together, that the dots do not connect, but there are dots connecting that are hidden, but not lost anywhere, that directly in front of us every single day, but nobody wants to pay attention to.
Because they're not critical thinkers. Because in order for them to even speak means historically they learned a language. So history is always now. They never would have had a past of learning a language, then they wouldn't even be able to speak to us. So the mere fact that them trying to make this assertion that the history doesn't matter is absurd. It's a contradiction.
And everything is trying to be contradicted between, what, situation in history was worse, Holocaust or slavery.
And black people will always say it's the Holocaust, correct?
Say it's the Holocaust.
Which one lasted longer?
Slavery did.
Which one happened all around the world where every race except blacks, or except for those few blacks that was engaged in kidnapping and trading, who benefited?
Everyone.
Everyone around the world benefited from slavery.
Everyone. Every single person around the world that was not black pretty much were on board with the idea of enslaving Africans. Everyone. Holocaust, yes, it was a big tragedy, and we had different technologies coming up, in it, but it just pretty much shows how history can repeat itself when we do not understand our history, don't know
the context.
Our history, the context within it, because it was going to happen. Remind you, in slavery, there was massive genocide. Do not get me wrong. There was massive genocide going on because there were not enough people pretty much on the black community. It was like, no, I'm not going to work for slavery. I'm going to fight for what I got. And unfortunately...
Now, they don't tell that part,
right,
do they?
The people with the guns, unfortunately, won. There was genocide. Just like in the Holocaust, there was genocide. This was not happening to the whole entire world. This was happening to one country. And also growing out to other countries. But with slavery, it happened to the entire world for... I don't know, maybe give or take 500 years.
It was a long time, right? I mean, we could be off, but hundreds of years was a long time.
Holocaust happened in decades. It happened in decades.
And nobody's saying that the Holocaust wasn't horrible, because it was. It was horrendous.
Horrible. It was horrific.
But what we're pointing out is that mainly blacks, because most of my white students do not say this, but mostly blacks want to say that slavery pales in comparison, and that it wasn't that horrendous, and that we should be over it by now.
Of course, no. I mean, during the Holocaust, there was no land to be conquered. Black people built America directly on their backs because cotton was king, and somebody had to pick it.
Somebody had to pick it. What about the tobacco? What about the sugar?
That too.
In the Caribbean.
It had to be done.
It had to be done. And so the Dominican Republic and Haiti become the richest island in the world at one time on the backs of who? Africans. Right? And then, like we said, you got to remember this. Psychological effects of abuse do not go away. Right? And after slavery was over and nobody treated the blacks. Nobody went in and made any attempt to fix the problem.
Everybody thinks that, it can just happen in your life. It just happens in your life. But nobody thinks about what ancestors, what things you have been taught on the way to where you are right now. Okay, nobody thinks about that. They sit you down nowadays. They sit down, what has happened in your life? What is the problem in your life? Why are you having these problems? What has happened in the past of your life? Okay, but in other people's lives, like your mother and your father, your grandmother, and so on and so forth, it could also have an effect on you.
Then we can prove it to people because when they go to a doctor, what does the doctor want? A family history.
Here we go.
When you go to a psychologist or psychiatrist, what do they want to know? A family history.
Just in case you might have somebody in your past may have, for instance, schizophrenia. For somebody in your past, maybe to have cancer. They have to have that past thing, so they need to know the percentage of you most likely having that condition.
Correct.
It happens.
You can't forget about the past. The past tells you where you are today. So this is Jarel and Rodney. We out.